Hello and welcome to Overdue Book Review. My name is Sarah and thank you so much for joining me on my first YouTube video. Yay! Today we're going to be talking about my top 4 books of 2025. I am posting this in October, so November and December might skew these numbers a little bit, but I wanted to stop procrastinating and finally just post my videos. So what better way than doing my top 4 so then you guys can get a vibe of what I really enjoy and see if you even want to watch my reviews. But let's get started. Okay, so number 4, I don't keep the best track of the books that I read. Looked at my whole bookcase and tried to figure out in my bookshelves and tried to figure out which books I actually remembered, which ones resonated with me, which ones left like a deep emotional impact, and ones that I do remember just reading front to back like immediately. I am not a person that should ever do drugs because I have a very addictive personality. So as soon as I get into it, it becomes my whole thing. The Brandon Sanderson books, I went full throttle on those and bought the leather bound ones. You don't even want to know how much those cost. Those were expensive, but I dive in and I give it like my 100%. So these are the books that resonated with me. Hopefully I do start keeping track on Goodreads, but let's get started. Okay, so number 4 is Assistant to the Villain. Now I will say, 5 stars, definitely, but I'm a person that very much judges books by the cover. And I did that with this one, so I passed it twice and I did not pick it up. So finally, on another adventure to Barnes & Noble, I finally picked up a paperback copy of this book. I think it should be somewhere in the background. I just got the special edition in the mail, I think a few days ago. But I did not want to read it, and I don't know why. And there's another book on this list that I was the same way, and I don't know what it was about the cover or if it was just me. I just didn't know what to expect, so I'm so glad I finally started it. So we follow the girl Evie, and she becomes an assistant to the villain, and it's just so funny. I saw a review online, and they compared it to The Office meets ACOTAR, so A Court of Thorn and Roses. So if you watch the show The Office and read the books, ACOTAR, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But this book is just so funny, and it keeps you on your toes, and you just don't know what's going to happen next. And the villain, just mum's the word, but love him, adore him. He's so funny. But overall, definitely top 4 of my books. I read this, bought the second one as soon as it happened, or as soon as I was done. And then I think the third one is about to be released. I'm not sure on the date, but definitely if you haven't read it, I would read this. Highly recommend. Next book is another purple cover book. This book was more fantasy romance, but this next one was all fantasy and pure devastation. I cried, I think, on at least 5 different occasions. I did a couple of TikTok videos on it too, so if you want to see my reactions, you can. But Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This one hit home so hard. It was just so emotional. I read these books, the original Hunger Games trilogy, when I was in high school. So I remember being at my desk, reading the books, and just really getting sucked into the world. So being able to come back to that felt like a full circle moment. Like as an adult, I'm in a different place in my life, and it was just really enjoyable to be able to sit down and read this. And we got to see some of our favorite characters again. I was able to thoroughly process the trauma this time. I feel like when I was reading it in high school, I didn't realize how traumatic, I did, but I didn't realize how traumatic of a situation that these kids were in. So now looking back at this as an adult was just, I don't know, it was just brutal. This one felt extra brutal. But Suzanne Collins knocked it out of the park again. So definitely top 5. So right now it's top 3. So again, that was like a young adult book, then a purely fantasy book, and now we're going to go back to another book that was a fantasy romance. I saw this book, I think again, like back in 2021, and I just never picked it up. I kept procrastinating it. You know when you know you're going to love a book? That's exactly what I knew was going to happen with this book. So for some reason that made me not want to pick it up. It's a weird psychological thing when I go to Barnes & Noble. Like I'll pick up books because of the vibes, the look, or if I know I'm going to like it too much, I'm like, no, wait. we're gonna have to savor this. So I just don't buy it. It's just crazy. But this one is called Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. And I even like made notes on this one. I loved it. So good. 10 out of 10, 5-star read. Beautiful. I read the whole trilogy. I think I have the trilogy somewhere in the background. But we follow Evangeline, who is a pink-haired girl who honestly, I would love, she's just like a girly girl. And there's so many times where you read books where it's like the girl is just, she can fight, but she's also weak and demure. And I love the fact that she was a girl. She embraced being a girl and she just owned it, and that was just her. She wasn't pretending. It is different than a couple of the other books like Akatar and Throne of Glass. I feel like we're used to like the girl ending up fighting and like she's just powerful. And it was nice seeing a girl being powerful just with her pink hair and just being her. She just was would you call her a sleuth? I don't know if that's like the right word, but she's very smart and she figured out what's going on. So number 2 book, definitely recommend. So if we're vibing, we're vibing. Now, my top book, again, is a different genre. I didn't realize I went back and forth on them. But this book I was actually able to read with my husband. We did the audiobooks together because I would not be able to pronounce any of these names. Like the main character, Kaladin, I don't think reading it, I would have known how to pronounce it. It is insane. For someone who reads a lot, I'm like, okay, that's the word. Yeah, we're just going to keep trucking through. But if you know who I'm talking about, I am talking about The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon, I love you, honestly. I first heard about this author not even through his books. He loves Magic the Gathering. And me and my husband actually met. Well, we met at church, but we used to hang out, and for like Valentine's Day and Christmas, I'd give him like Magic the Gathering cards, and I finally ended up playing with him. So now I have this cool Edgar vampire deck that ultimately destroys everyone I play with. It is amazing. I get to Okay, anyways, this isn't a Magic the Gathering game a video, but yeah, so we found out about him through that, and then for some reason we're like, let's read a book together, and this was The Way of Kings. I have an addictive personality, so I think this is what got me into reading. So I can never do drugs, honestly, because my life would just go downhill. But as soon as I read a book and I love it, I have to read the whole thing. I have to finish the whole series, and I think a lot of us readers, that's what we do. But with The Way of Kings, I went all in and I got the leather edition, and it has all the beautiful pictures. And honestly, this book is a lot. Like, you really have to not work your way up to it, but I suggest that you start with the audiobooks because it makes it so much easier to process. For me, I'm awful with names, so it really helped me figure out who's who in these books. But I did start with Mistborn, and Mistborn is another one of Brandon Sanderson's books, but it's a little bit lighter and it's easier to read. I actually went on TikTok to ask people, like, should I start with Mistborn? Should I start with The Way of Kings? And almost, I think, like 90% of people were like, you need to start with Mistborn. It kind of gets you used to the way Brandon Sanderson's mind works, especially with like his world building. So I saw a couple of videos of him, and he was just talking about like before he even writes a book, he figures out how like the magic and the powers all work. This one, amazing. I will say I got a little confused in the beginning, and it helped that I was reading this book with my husband, because then when I didn't understand something, he would kind of talk to me about it, and I'd figure out what like the spheres were and like how it actually all works. Or like we'd have those cool moments where we're listening to the audiobook and we just like look at each other and we have to like pause it. We're like, wait, what just happened? So again, number 1 book, I ended up buying the second book also in like the leather bound, and as soon as the third one comes out, I'm going to do the same. But cannot recommend this book enough. Again, there's no smut in this book, so it's mainly, well, there's a little bit of romance, but it's not like the main thing. And our character, Kaladin, he is the main one. I just love his story and really getting to learn about him. And there's this moment that is just like ingrained in my brain. I had to read that chapter over and over. Um, Brandon Sanderson, you did such a great job. I can't wait for the next book, honestly. But again, those are my top 4 books. So if you vibe with those, I am probably gonna put out some videos that you might enjoy. Let me know if you have any books that you recommend that kind of fall within this escape, so the fantasy romance drama. I do have a couple of thriller books that I do read. Thank you for watching me. If you liked what we talked about, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.